When the general public thinks of a mine, they think of scarred landscape, random piles of discarded waste rock, old tailings facilities, some of which are both leaking questionable liquids. We think of greedy mine owners who wouldn't invest in safety and underpaid their skilled and hardworking employees. The modern mine is none of those things. In fact, it's the direct opposite. Hi, George Sanders, President, Goldcliff Resource Corporation, a publicly traded mineral exploration startup. Welcome back to our discussion about the publicly traded exploration startup space and why it is a very investable space, one capable of generating terrific investment returns. In our initial video, we made the case that everything in our modern world is metal dependent. All the things we use, all the things we wear, everything we work with, where we live, how we're transported, it all depends on metal. And metal and the other raw materials have to be extracted. They have to be mined. So today we wanted to follow up on that and talk just a little bit about what the modern mine looks like, especially in comparison with some of our long-held conceptions of what mines used to be like. If a mine owner was trying to start a mine today in Canada, in the United States, in Australia, New Zealand, in most parts of Latin America, and in Europe, the process after discovering the ore body would go through a multi-year permitting timeline or process. The regulatory requirements before the first ton of ore is extracted and sent for processing are onerous, they're vigorous, they're applied after much testing, and so we live in an environment today where a mine operator can't just go and start mining. There's a very vigorous process involved with many different members of the community involved in reviewing all the test work that goes into starting a new mine. Additionally, as part of that process, the shutting down of the mine when the ore body is depleted. A highly detailed engineering plan has to be submitted for that, in addition to which bonds have to be posted. So again, before the first ton of ore is extracted, the closure costs for that operation have to be anticipated, and money has to be set aside, put in place with third parties to guarantee that some or all of those costs will be recovered. One of the other big differences as a result of multiple decades of initially union activity followed by, again, regulatory activity is mine safety. Most mine operators today, and I can tell you this from my own experience, most mine operators today are bonused initially on their health and safety record, not on how much ore was produced during the given bonus period. So it's a very important component of the modern operation. Modern operations are known for their high levels of pay. In the mining industry today, in North America, in parts of Latin America, and in Australia, the labor is very, very competitive. And so it behooves the mine operator to have not only a safe working environment, but to have additionally high levels of pay, and to establish their operation as a place where people want to stay and they want to come to work. All of this, for the modern mine operator, is just plain good business. What's happened over the decades is the nature of mine ownership has changed, and most of the even smaller but certainly intermediate and larger size mines are owned by large and intermediate size public companies. They're not controlled by single partnerships or a single mine owner or a closely controlled, very few shares issued publicly traded corporation as at the beginning of the 1900s. As such, those previous operators saw reclamation expenses, they saw closure expenses, they saw fair wages, they saw health and safety expenditures as a drawdown of the potential funding available for their dividends. That's no longer the case, and in fact, these companies have, many of them, large institutional shareholders who are bringing to bear on management teams of large mining companies pressures to make sure that they have an excellent social license, that they have excellent employee relations, that they are investing in the newest technology, that they are trying to minimize their footprint, their CO2 emissions, their fuel consumption. All of these things are driven not just by the dollars and cents that are now making sense for mining companies, but also the pressure from shareholders. So today's modern mine is a completely different beast than what the public tends to have in mind. So why does this bad image exist? Well, if you think it through, a mine operation does not sell product directly to the general public. Mine operators produce a concentrate, which is sold to a smelter, or in the case of a precious metals operation, they may produce doré, which are impure gold and silver ingots or bars, and those are sold to a refinery. So as such, they are not producing a consumer staple, they are not producing a consumer discretionary, and accordingly, there's no need to advertise to the general public. And the consequence of that is the public is multiple decades behind in their image of what goes on at a modern mine. Now, part of the problem in the industry has just been an insular view and a failure to communicate, and there are lots of activities in the bigger companies and lots of entrepreneurs in the space like myself who are now communicating this. But the audience for the communication up until even as we speak has been primarily to the investment community, and it has been in trade publications, and it has been in trade shows and presentations and those kinds of things. So while that marketing has been effective, it's kind of been internal marketing and not to the general public. So the idea of what actually happens to what used to happen hasn't been effectively communicated. Like many other segments in our modern economy, the mining business is ripe with commercialized and nearly commercialized disruptions of various parts of the mining process. Last September, two colleagues of mine visited the immense mine equipment show held every few years in Las Vegas, Nevada. They were blown away by the new technology, some of which is already commercially used and some of which is just about at that stage. We're talking electric mining vehicles. We're talking new processes for dissolving and recovering. We're talking new processes for circulating waste water. We're talking about new reclamation methods. We're talking about new technologies to enhance and improve crushing and grinding, the tires on the big trucks, all of these things. It's an amazing explosion, again, happening in many other sectors, but it hasn't been communicated what's going on in the mining space. Now, in these videos, we really want to focus in on the exploration part of the mining cycle and to explain and encourage you to investigate why that is a very investable space. But to get to there, we wanted to start with the increasing demand for renewable electric and AI applications in the new economy demand metals. Those metals have to be extracted. That's the mining business. The lifeblood of mining business is exploration. So, we look forward to seeing you in the next series of videos where we will communicate a little bit about the exploration process, where some of the critical junctures are for ongoing success or abort path, and where those allow us investment opportunities. So stay tuned. We hope you find this informative, and we will see you again talking about exploration.